I'm Chris.
I'm Sandy.
And this is Parenting Autism. Here we go. Dun, dun, dun. Hi, Sandy.
Hey, Chris. I never know how you're going to kick it off around here.
Episode 83. Come on.
83. Wow.
83.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
Yeah, we're here for the 2-week catch-up.
Yep, without the mustard.
Without the mustard. I knew that sounded like, oh, so silly, so
Would
silly.
you like fries with that?
No, thanks.
Okay.
Well, are they gluten-free? That's the running joke around here.
We're on a roll.
Wow. Okay. Well, before we lose listeners, we probably should.
With our poor jokes.
Oh, my goodness. So actually, I'm kind of proud of us because we're on this 2-week plan that we actually put on our schedule
To do.
And it's working.
A podcast.
Pretty good.
Yes.
It's like 3 in a row. So
we're here.
That's good. And today we're going to talk about some things that have happened in the past couple of weeks, which, you know, there's always headlines going on at the Coulters.
Dum, 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 dum.
But then we'll just talk about Bryce, our world, and that's what we do. So if you're a first-time listener, welcome. We don't always start off with bad jokes, but, you know,
Right.
we did today. But if you keep coming back, we appreciate it. And we're just here to share our journey with Bryce. And we actually got a nice note recently from someone. I just want to share that.
Share the
now,
love.
if that's okay.
We like love.
Yeah, it was Laura, and thanks, Laura. And she said she was just reaching out to us. And she said she recently graduated as a special educator, and she's a nanny of twin boys with autism and a special education teacher to kiddos with autism as well. So kudos to her. I mean, right off the bat, I'm like, God bless her. And she said she's listened to every episode and she's been following along for a few years now. And she wanted to just thank us for all that we've shared. It's truly helped her with the kiddos that she works with. And she wanted to thank us for being a tremendous help. She also says she's been praying for us and along with Bryce and everything that's been going on. And she just wanted to give us encouragement and say, you know, she's glad to be a part of our journey. And that's the kind of stuff that really just helps us. So thank you.
We appreciate it.
Laura, and
Thank
all
you,
the
Laura.
others who reach out to us.
Yes, we appreciate people reaching out to us with questions even and comments, and it helps us know that there are people out there still listening to us.
It does. And I think when someone says that they feel like they're along the journey with us, that's our goal. Is like, we're really just here to share what's going on and hoping that people can learn as we learn.
Mm-hmm. Compare notes.
Can share like we share. And it's, you know, we're a community. I've been working on my book, and I was up until 1 a.m. with some inspiration last night. And the part I was writing about last night was talking about the different emotions that we go through. And I was honing in on the feeling of loneliness that I was really feeling when this journey started. And as I started to write it, I used to say that I felt like I was on an island all by myself, but that's not true. And as I was writing in the wee hours this morning, I was like, you know what? It didn't feel like an island. It felt like I was in a foreign land where I could see people, but when I spoke and when I talked, they didn't understand me anymore. They didn't understand my language because
Right.
I went to a different world, and
Autism.
you know,
They didn't understand.
they didn't
autism.
understand what was going on with Bryce. They didn't understand why we were saying things were different about him.
So this is a sneak peek into your book.
It kind of is, but
What chapter?
Chapter 4. So anyway, you know, that's that feeling of loneliness. And then I was reflecting on when I really felt less alone on this journey was when I met other moms that were local. There were a couple that we were introduced to through our therapist, and it was so wonderful to meet somebody that just spoke my language. you know, and I don't feel as much of that now. I definitely don't. But let me tell you, in those early years, it was tough. But now, you know, we still have struggles that my other friends can't relate to if their children isn't experiencing the same thing. And it's nice when people reach out to us through the podcast. And then I know that the world becomes smaller and the journey becomes easier knowing that we're not alone. So that's what I hope this podcast does for other people.
Yeah, I consider it a club.
Yeah, it is kind of like a club.
It's a cool club.
It is the cool club.
It's a cool club you don't want to be in.
Well, it's the one you don't sign up for.
It's the one you don't
It's
sign
definitely
up
the cool
for.
club you don't sign up for.
Yeah.
But once you're in, you're like, hey, this
Surprise,
isn't so bad after
you're part
all.
of the club.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Here's your membership card. Learn
Yep.
to love it.
Yep.
And you know what? We have learned to love it. And that's the truth. We
Yep.
really have learned to love it.
Yep.
And I think Bryce is the coolest kid. I mean, I get pure joy from him. So
Yeah, he does.
He-
He brings us a lot of joy.
he really does. And he's just so easily pleased overall. He is. And he just gets excited about things and happy about things that are the smallest things. And I always say, like, we've mentioned, if you've listened before, that at our church they have the buddies. And so sometimes he goes in the buddy room, and then the last several weeks he's gone into the studio, which is where all the other kids are, you know.
Loud music, dancing.
Yeah, which he likes
Quizzes,
part of that. Yeah.
stories.
But it's a whole different environment
Learning. It's
for
a learn-
sure.
yeah.
And so when we got a message yesterday that the buddy room was going to be open and that's where they wanted him to go. So when I told him, his excitement was over the top. He just got up and started jumping and the buddy room, my buddies. But then we said, well, how do you feel about the studio? But he likes that too. Oh, hold on. He's
Here he is.
knocking.
Hello.
Come in.
Come in. Hi.
Guess what? I just hold the items and threw that Bowser when he was gonna do. And I just threw it.
Wow.
And he just got back.
Okay.
I was top damage.
Wow.
Oh.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing that. Can you close the door? Thanks.
He's got a new game.
He does have a new game, so we're getting the play-by-play. But when we got to church, I was just going to say that he was greeted by one of his buddies, and it was a peer, a little boy that's a couple years older than him, who's nonverbal, but they have their own way that they communicate, and little Reese greeted him with the biggest hug around
he
his
came
neck.
running over
oh
to
my
the
goodness.
door.
He was so happy to see Bryce. And it was just the two of them with the volunteers that were with them today. And they had the best time at church and learned about Jesus walking on the water. And then Bryce even said, did Peter walk on the water? And, you know, and I said, he did. Why did he sink? You know, and he had questions about church afterwards. And he's learning. And it just makes my heart happy. And just seeing him be happy makes me happy, which is where I was kind of leading in with that.
I do want to mention that April, since we're in April, it is Autism Awareness Month.
Wow, it sure is.
So I don't think we should stick it into a month. We should be, advocating and spreading the word year round, because so many people still don't know what it is or how to be around people with autism or
Again, what do we say? How do we act? That's the awkwardness that can be there sometimes.
Yeah, because they don't know what it
Sure,
is.
I get it.
And even still, they're training police officers now, which is great. We're seeing glimpses. Now we have a special needs. I don't want to say hotline. It's a 211, which is an information line you can dial on your phone here where we live, and you can ask for special needs help.
Really?
And they have somebody dedicated to resources for special needs families. So I thought that was big.
That's fantastic. So something you shared on social media that I missed? Probably. I haven't been on.
Yeah, I probably shared it on social media.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
report said I was 11% down, which this is good. I'm trying to
That's good.
not be on as much.
Yeah, and while
But
we're-
I like the important
Yeah.
things that we find. So I'm.
and I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but social media, the whole tone on social media has changed recently. It just seems like everybody is rude to each other, And, you know, it was to a point before, but it just seems like it's getting worse and worse. And there's just...
Who are your friends that are rude?
There's no joy.
You can control that.
It's not necessarily my friends. It's just the groups, the different... Like our local groups here in our town, you know, it's like, really?
And hop out.
And but... I'm
serious.
But there is some helpful information that people share once in a while.
Yeah,
know?
But if it's once... You got to weigh that out. And I'm speaking to anybody listening. If you're... You know, if there's more negative than positive in any environment, check out. I mean, control what you can control. Is it really worth getting a nugget here and there if the crap that you're getting in between is bringing you down? It's crap. Yep, I said it. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. As you can tell, I have low tolerance for that kind of stuff.
Crap.
It is. Speaking of 4-letter words, I guess I'll take that segue.
Uh-oh. This is something I said.
It's not something you said, but it was something I was going to bring up because it's something that has popped up on our parenting radar in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, yeah.
You know where I'm going to go with, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Bryce discovered a video on YouTube of a movie with Denzel Washington being a pilot in a plane, and the plane is crashing. So Bryce is very, very, very much into aviation. And I don't know how he came across this video. And if you're wondering, is he on YouTube Kids? I asked that question after this occurred. And apparently he's not on YouTube Kids only because there's some other stuff he wants to watch. And honestly, he doesn't watch bad things. He really doesn't. He normally finds things that are related to his video games, and we listen to who he's watching. And there's one person that he's allowed to watch this particular player's videos because he's okay. Others we've been like, yeah, no, you can't watch him. And Bryce is a really good rule follower. But anyway, having said all that, he stumbled upon this, probably searching for something for airplanes flying. Well, then he's watching it crash. But what happened was, as I was walking by and he was watching it, I thought I heard a 4-letter word that kind of sounds like sit down, but that's not what it was. So I heard it and I'm like,
what 4-letter word sounds like sit down?
Well, take away the down and it sounds like good Lord.
Come on, Sandy.
Come on, Chris, listen.
So anyway, I need help.
It's an alternative for crap. So anyway, I heard this word and I'm like, whoa, did I just hear that? You know, but it literally flew over Bryce's head, pun intended, as he's watching the plane, and the plane had inverted. And so as the plane was flying upside down by somebody, that's what exclaimed out of that person's mouth. So I heard Bryce watching the video again, and I heard that, and I thought, okay. So here's a test. How do I address that? Because I really don't want to point out to Bryce any words that are considered curse words, because then he's going to be like, why? What does that mean?
Well, then
why
he'll be asking
that?
If he hears a new word. Is that a curse word?
Yeah, you know, with Bryce, anytime you introduce something, just expect a lot of things to follow. So
I didn't want him to watch that anyway because it's so traumatic.
I was going to say, right. So first he's watching it, and I honestly didn't know what all was going on. Then he's watching. So I'm like, okay, we got to nip this in the bud. So we have learned with Bryce, if we tell him that a movie or anything is a certain age, a game, a movie, you have to be a certain age to watch it. Then once you show him that, he says, oh, okay. So I'm like, I got to see what the rating is on this. And again, it was a little clip, but it was an R-rated movie. And I'm sure it was because of just the trauma. I mean, the people crashing and screaming and everything else. So when I showed him that movie was R-rated and you have to be 18 to watch it, then he said, oh, okay. And then you said to him, well, it's not really, he's like, why? You know, and I was like, well, because it can give you bad dreams because they're crashing. And he goes, yeah, people are screaming. I said, yeah. And how does that make you feel? Scared. Okay. So we don't want you doing that because we don't want you to have bad dreams. I was able to avoid the whole conversation about the bad word in a way that we found an alternative way for it to make sense to Bryce that he shouldn't be watching that. And I found that to be a better approach with him. And I think that's part of parenting is you got to figure out the best approach with your kids. If I just came and said, oh my gosh, don't say that word, what word, and scare him and all of that, it would be a bad approach. And I was reflecting on this because he also picked up from the other game that he watches. The guy on there says, what the heck? So I didn't know that. And then I heard Bryce go, what the heck? And then I heard again, what the heck? And I'm like, I kind of smiled. Then I'm like, well, I'd rather him not say that. I mean, only because the world has taken that and made that in much more colorful way that makes me cringe. So I'd rather just get him in a different way. So then I go, yeah, maybe you shouldn't say that. And then I heard you say, well, I told you.
Yeah.
So then I knew you must have said something to him. So then, of course, why? And then he goes, what does heck mean? Because he always says mean. I said, well, heck really doesn't mean anything. It's kind of slang for something else. What does slang mean? Well, let's just say this. It's kind of saying, what in the world? I said, well, what was he saying when he said it on your game? And he told me what was happening. So-and-so did something. And I said, and was it surprising? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, then that's when you say, what in the world? And he's like, oh. I said, yeah. So don't say what the heck. Just say, what in the world? And he says, okay. So, that was a couple of days ago. And now I heard him going, what in the world? And then you looked at me and you go, is that what you told him to say instead? I go, I did. And that's what's been coming out now.
It's funny.
And it was funny and it was better, because he's going to be saying something. It's just helping him know what we would deem to be
appropriate,
a less offensive, more acceptable way to say it. And so that's the kind of stuff we've kind of been working with. I mean, all kids pick up things that they hear. And that's why it's so important. And hey, listen, all adults, what you put in is going to come out. So that's why I don't watch certain movies and certain shows, because if I put it in, at some point it's going to come out, and it's definitely the same for Bryce, except multiply that by 100 because he's such a follower. I mean, he even imitates how that guy laughs in his videos. He, thinks it's great. But anyway, that was kind of cute. And we shared that because I imagine there are other parents that deal with that and probably with more colorful than what the heck, but it's just protecting them and teaching them. And I was also thinking when I was younger, and I must have been his age, I'm going to say 7 or 8. I remember my older brother made me angry about something, and I called him a really bad word that I did not know was a bad word. So I must have shocked my mom when I said it, because she's like, what did you say? And I remember this because it was a lesson for me. And I repeated it because I didn't know it was bad. And then she's like, where did you learn that? And at that time, I had learned it from my dad because we didn't go to church yet. And I said, well, I heard Daddy say that to so-and-so when he was mad. And Randy made me mad. And so then she had to explain, well, you can't always say the words that Daddy says, and that's the power of influence that we have over our children,
Good point.
And they really are going to pick up what they hear. And
they're a sponge.
And if we're not saying it, but we're allowing them to watch anything and be around anyone and not controlling their influences, then that's what we're going to end up with is the things we really don't want them saying. So anyway, that's something we've just kind of been dealing with.
Good point.
A little bit funny and a little bit like, whoa, okay, how do we handle that? But
I want to mention our YouTube channel.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've been uploading a bunch of videos recently. And so those of you that haven't been to our YouTube channel yet, it's really cool. It's youtube.com/parenting autism show. Make sure you put show on the end of there because otherwise you won't find it. But in the past couple of weeks since our last episode, I've uploaded Bryce playing the drums, feeding a rhino at the Tampa Zoo, riding a roller coaster at the Tampa Zoo. In another video, he talks about why he doesn't like to write. He explains to me during school why he doesn't like to write. And
that was a really good one for educational purposes.
I put one up there on our first camping trip outside of the backyard. That was fun.
Did you put the anesthesia one on there?
That's the one I was going to mention next. That seems to be the most popular one, or one of the more popular ones.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Because he says some funny things coming out of anesthesia. That's when he went in for his MRI. And then he does his second hotel tour. So we're getting better at these videos and the way we're taking them. And of course, we didn't do all these things in the past 2 weeks. I've just uploaded them from my phone.
Yeah, we haven't been that busy.
But this coming weekend, we're excited about because the air show, right? This coming weekend.
Yep.
So they have a really big air show in Lakeland, Florida.
We went there last year, and that was
he loved
the best one. And so we signed up again, like we made our hotel reservation when we got back. Mm-hmm. And last year, there were still quite a few restrictions because of COVID, like as to which airplanes you could go in and things like that. So I'm expecting that there will be more hands-on opportunities this year.
I think so.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yep. And then since we're on the topic of airplanes, we can tell everyone that we did our second Young Eagles flight where they take the kids up into the airplanes and fly them around, trying to get them interested in flying. And Bryce is already interested in flying, of course. So he really enjoyed it. But he did comment when we got back that it was a bad flight or something. What did he say when he got out?
I can't remember his exact quote, but it definitely was not good.
Yeah, it was like, that was a bad flight or something. That was a bad,
Yeah, it was not good.
So the girl that was riding with them, she said, we hit an air pocket, and I guess the landing was a little bumpy, and so he didn't care for that too much. But overall, he was still very excited and glad that he did it.
Well, and this time he didn't get to be in the pilot seat.
Right.
Actually, the pilot was in the pilot seat, and the co-pilot was another young girl.
Yeah.
So Bryce
and we prepped him.
We did, and he handled it really well.
We told him even before we went, and the week before we went, that this time you might not get the front seat, you might not be in the pilot seat, you might not be in the co-pilot seat, you might be in the back seat, and that's okay.
Yep. And we said you still get to, and I think his biggest concern was would he still get credit in his pilot log. And we're like, yes. Yeah. So that eased whatever anxiety he had about that. So I'm sure riding in the back feels different even with your stomach than riding in the front and having less control. But he did say he thought that the pilot was going to stall and crash.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he did. So he said that too, because I guess when they did the little drop and his stomach, he said his tummy tickled. I said, well, I thought you like it when your tummy tickled, because he does when we go to the fair. I said, do you like it when your tummy tickles? Yes. I thought he was going to stall and crash. I said, well, you're not going to stall and crash. So,
I didn't hear that part.
Yeah, so he, when he's in control, he feels a little better. And I don't know if he talked about his simulator. I think that's come since we recorded last. Maybe you said it was coming, but he is doing air flights training at home with the simulator that you got him. It's got the foot pedals and all the gears and I don't know what you call everything, but it's pretty fancy. Yeah. And you're making that part of his school, because for us, we teach Bryce obviously his core subjects, but he has electives, and his elective is learning how to fly a plane and understanding all the gadgets and all the dials and what everything means. And
if you've been listening to us, you know that we try to feed whatever he's interested in. So we're going to soccer today. They have a special needs soccer camp.
Yep.
Or league that we're going to today. That's starting out. So we're feeding that. He loves flying. We're feeding that. And
music
is
still a big one, so we feed that. So he's been listening a lot to music, and I noticed that he's paying attention to the lyrics as well. Now, granted, he's usually playing drums on whatever he can put in the air. He's an air drummer, and he also will hit whatever he can hit to catch the beat. But he's asking me about lyrics now. So yesterday we were listening to a song by Lauren Daigle. He's very into Lauren Daigle right now. And shout out to her. And so the song was talking about how God takes care of the sparrow and he takes care of the roses. So he's going to take care of us, right? And so he says, what does sparrow mean? And I said, oh, well, a sparrow is a bird. And he's like, a sparrow is a bird. I said, yeah, there's different kinds of birds, and a sparrow is a bird. And when she talks about roses, roses is a flower. I said, do you know what that song's about? No. And I said, well, she's saying that if God takes care of the birds, and if he takes care of the flowers, he loves you too, and he's going to take care of you. So you know how you worry about things and you feel anxious? Yes. I said, well, you don't have to, because God's saying that he'll take care of you. So whatever it is you're worrying about, just remember the song and that God's take care of you. Oh, now I understand. So that was our conversation on the way to the ranch yesterday.
Yeah.
And then last night, he asked Alexa to play the entire Look Up Child record of Lauren Daigle. So we were listening to that as he was trying to go to sleep. And there's a song called Rescue. So that must have caught his ear. So he goes, what does rescue mean? And I said, well, rescue means like to save someone, like to save the day, right? If someone needs help and they rescue them. Oh. So I said, do you know what this song is about? No. And I said, well, it's Jesus has rescued us from sins, because you know how we've talked about sins and how you ask God to forgive you. He goes, and he had the boo-boo and was on the cross. Yes. I said, that's so he could rescue you from your sin. So I have to tell you, anytime these conversations go up with Bryce, it goes deeper, and I will follow it as much as I think he can handle. But he was asking me again about what they did to him and why he was bleeding. So I told him a little more. I mean, it is Easter time, this month. And so I told him the Roman soldiers, that they cut him with the glass on his back. And he's like, why did they do that? And I said, well, because they were mean. And I think for Bryce, you just kind of teach him some basics, that some people are mean and some people don't love God and do mean things. But really, they just didn't know. They didn't know who Jesus really was, but we do. So I just try to always tell him the truth in a way that he can handle it, and then just bring him back to the positive side of it, and then back to the rescue. So those are conversations that we've had. But the beautiful thing is we're having conversations with him. And
he's really enjoying that Bible app.
That storybook we mentioned last time.
Yeah. Yep,
and those are bringing up questions. And I know he's watched, Jesus, the death of Jesus on that story too, and so it brings up questions, but that's seeking. And that's what we've been praying for, is that, he would understand more and want to learn and know more. So, yeah, so we've been talking about that. And then I think probably the other headline really that took place was we've got ABA changes going again. And that is something that we knew was coming.
Yeah.
But we just didn't know it was happening on Tuesday night when we showed up for Taco Tuesday.
I think we just found out that it was happening maybe a month ago or less.
I say less than that. And it only came up in kind of casual conversation because Miss Melanie has been coming to our house. That's his current RBT, a couple times a week for several months now. And I think I just said, so when, how long are you going to be his RBT? Because we know that she's studying for her master's. And she goes, oh, they're going to be getting him someone new. And I said, okay, is that like at the end of the year, a couple months? She goes, oh, no, like in the next couple of weeks. We're like, oh, okay.
And I understood it before that it was going to be a while. I was under the impression before, when she had first mentioned it, that it was going to be
I was
later
thinking
in
December
the year,
or
right?
late, yeah,
November, December.
Yeah, so
because that's when she was going to be graduating or something.
Yes, but I guess what's happened now is that she's promoting up, and you know what, that happens with ABA. You start as a RBT, and then you want to work your way up in the field, and eventually become the BCBA who writes the plan, and that's what she's working towards. So she's being taken out of the RBT role, I guess, altogether. Like, she won't have any more children that and I know there's another child she's been with for 3 years, so that will be hard for him too. But anyway, so for Bryce, I don't even know that we really prepped him much because we didn't know what was happening right away. So Melanie has met us for Taco Tuesday because that's our routine now. And when we got there, she was with the new RBT, Miss Page. So I'm like, oh, okay. And then it was kind of like it was going to be passing the baton that night and we're done. And we're like, whoa, we can't just do that to Bryce, you know?
That was another surprise. I was like, okay.
I thought there'd be like some transition.
And then she's like, well, I'll see if I can come at the same time for one more time or something.
Or like, yeah, could you do that maybe? Yeah. Like Thursday would be great.
And maybe you could explain to Bryce what's happening.
Yeah.
You know, and not coming from us. I mean,
we just wanted some closure for him. That's important for Bryce.
Especially for autism. You have to have transition, prep. Come on, people.
So, and I know they have a special bond, you know, but I will say that, praise God, that he clicked with Paige right away. She's very friendly. She's upbeat. She smiles all the time. And Bryce is very, very, very responsive to that. Mm-hmm. So her personality matched with him right away. And so I told him, you know, that Miss Paige was going to come and play with him now instead of Miss Melanie. But we could still FaceTime Miss Melanie, you know, but she has to do more school. And so she won't be able to come over with him now. And I told him that in the car on the way home to kind of make the point. And then I think Melanie had come over and she explained all that. So it's really worked out well. And when Paige came Wednesday without Melanie, that was her first one-on-one with Bryce. And he was so talkative with her, and he was taking her around the house, and he was showing her his drum set, and he went and got a game from the closet for them to play. But he was just like having conversations with her. And one thing that touched my heart, because I kind of gave them their space because I wanted them, you know, to start to bond and connect. And I heard him show her tell her about the boo-boo in his leg. Oh. And so he's like, yeah, this hole in my leg, yeah, that's from my boo-boo. And she says, oh, well, how did that happen? And he says, it was the germettes. And she says, what? And he goes, yeah, my boo-boo's from the germettes. So at that point I chimed in and I said, germettes are germs from an infection. He had an infection. Oh, okay.
That is funny.
But it was so cute. Yeah. You know, I said, and I was telling my mom about it, and I said, she doesn't quite speak Bryce yet, but she will, and she'll learn his little lingo and terms. But they connected so well. And so when Miss Melanie came on Thursday for the official transition, Bryce was really okay with it, you know, because he had that time with Paige and it's going to be okay. And they will stay in touch, and that's important because he will want to stay in touch with Miss Melanie. But, you know, this is kind of part of the parenting autism journey, and things we can't control is when we get different RBTs. And we've definitely had a lot of changes throughout the years, but we've always been fortunate with having great people. And when we've had people come that we didn't click and we didn't connect, we just said no thank you in the politest way. But we're like, you know what, this isn't going to be a match, so we need somebody else.
Sandy, that for those of you that have ABA techs out there, RBTs, you know, if you're feeling in your gut that it's not a good fit, you have cut that line as soon as you can, because it'll just continue. You know, if it's not a good fit for your child, you know it. I mean, you have that gut feeling. You're like, are they really supposed to be doing this? Or are they supposed to be talking to my child that way? You know, and that transitions to the child, you know, subconsciously at least. You know, the way they're talked to, the way they're handled, the way situations are handled. And we've been very fortunate to have some great RBT techs and BCBAs. And we've been in it long enough now to know if they're a good fit for Bryce, and if they're not. It's like a friend. Is this technician considered a friend to your child?
Well,
And of course they have to do work, and sometimes it might not seem friendly when they're trying to get through a situation, but you have to take everything into consideration.
Right. And we were talking earlier about the power of influence. And so, Bryce's therapists are very influential for him. And there was one lady when we were trying to have a transition a couple years ago, and I just remember when she came, I didn't, it was not a bad vibe, like negative, anything that she said. But I'm comparing now, like meeting Paige. Paige was so smiley and bubbly, and like I could tell she genuinely wanted to try to get to know Bryce and connect with him right away. Mm-hmm. And she really has, and she's younger and also studying to get a master's and another degree and, studying all these things, but she's learning about autism. And so even though she doesn't have years of experience, I can tell that she's genuinely
she wants to do her best,
to be invested in him and do her best with him, and that it's not coming off like, oh, okay, nice to meet you. No, I want it to be like, you're looking at Bryce, you're talking to Bryce, and you're interested in Bryce.
Right.
And that's what I immediately got out of Paige that I did not get out of the other person that I called the BCBA. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's not going to work. Thanks, but no thanks. Nothing personal, but there's no click there. And she showed no interest in Bryce. And if you're not showing interest in Bryce, then you're not going to be coming into our home.
If you have somebody shows up that says, I'm here to do my job, my name is General so-and-so, okay.
It's just the approach, or if you're even half interested, and you don't have to be like military, just if you're not genuinely interested in Bryce, you're not getting the job.
Right.
That's how it goes.
Right. And you can tell if the tech has a good relationship with your child or not. I mean,
well, Bryce responded, so that was she's a winner.
She's a winner.
We're thrilled, and the real blessing out of this for us is we were asking if there was somebody else that could do more hours because Melanie was limited. And she's like, I can come 7 days a week right now. And we're like, wow, okay, we don't need just 7, but how wonderful that she's available. And so this month, while we are transitioning, she actually is going to come 2 hours each day, Monday through Friday, which is going to be great for her and Bryce to get acclimated. And then we'll work around her schedule. I'm happy that she can do weekends because now I can make some play dates with his friends, because part of his new plan is definitely social. And we've been limited as to what we could do with social because of COVID, right? And then also part of his new plan is to teach him to recognize people in authority, or like if he's in a store and he were to get separated from us, who would be acceptable to approach, who works at a store, who doesn't work at a store. Now we can take him into public places and start teaching him more, and even teaching him more about life skills like shopping and he does like the cash register, but just getting out in public more. That's part of his plan. Conversations is a huge part of his plan, and recognizing if somebody is interested in having a conversation with you, so that he's not going on and on and on while somebody's over there losing their mind or losing interest. He doesn't read emotions or body language like we do.
We're also going to work on transitioning from different subjects in conversation. So he's got to learn that you just can't be talking about airplanes and then all of a sudden switch to Luigi without telling somebody, But so we're working on that.
Yeah. And it's tricky because we were talking about that at dinner with Melanie and Paige, and you were bringing up, we need to work on this. And they're like, well, okay, well, we've got to find a transition, but we don't want it to feel unnatural either. So it's like he can say, okay, I'm changing the topic now.
Right. So it's more like, can we talk about blank?
So we're just kind of teaching him how he can transition, because he definitely, his brain is hopping all over the place. And he actually is the type that he's telling you everything that he's thinking sometimes. So we don't even know what he's talking about sometimes, especially if it's about one of his games. Then we have to be like, is that Luigi? Is that Mario? And then he'll be like, yes, but just trying to teach him that kind of stuff. So there's lots of things in the plan that we're excited about. I know another thing we're working on is teaching him more with his utensils. And so he would rather eat with his fingers all the time, but that's not always the right thing to do, depending on the foods. So he has a hard time with his grip on the fork, and we're excited that she's here 5:30 to 7:30 in the evenings because she'll be with us at dinner each time. And so that was helpful having Melanie here a couple of nights each week for dinner because she was helping him even like how to hold his utensil. And then we were talking about it's in his plan to learn how to use a knife. And so, of course, that's something that I don't want to just use pretend toys. I want it to feel real to him. But we were talking about taking a butter knife and slicing up a banana into smaller pieces because that would be safe. And then it's real food that he would be having instant gratification. You slice it up and then you get to eat the banana. Now, the real question is, will he eat the banana in smaller bites? Because he's used to eating it off the peel. But we'll work him through that because that's part of Bryce too. If he expects things one way, then it's hard to get him to do it another way. But I just wanted to share some insight as to some of the things that is in the plan when your child is 8 years old, where Bryce is, because plans are very different than what they were when we started at age 3, when we've done it at 5, even when we've done it at 6 and 7. He's growing up and maturing into different plans and different goals. And I think ABA can be beneficial in so many ways. And it's not just for teaching your child how to behave in public. There's so much more to it. It's just figuring out the right fit for your child and for your family. And so we're big fans of it, but that's because we've had nothing really but positive experiences, which has been a blessing.
We've been very blessed with that.
So I don't really have any other notes. I really didn't have anything else that was pressing on my heart today, other than, what we've already shared, and that we're just taking things one day at a time. And, I do have people that ask me, I don't know how you can be so strong, and I don't know how you can keep smiling. And I just have to give credit where credit is due. And honestly, the joy of the Lord is my strength. And I don't know how I would get through some of these times without having that. But I have been given the gift of joy. I'm grateful for that. Do I have other emotions? Absolutely. Am I writing about them in this book? Yes, I am. But, on a day-to-day basis, I really try to start my day with something from the Bible, some word of encouragement from a book, a little bit of praise and worship song to set my mind to handle what's going to come that day. And last week I had a couple of days that I was up later, so it was hard to wake up early enough to do that. And my days just did not feel right. I mean, I really I need that. I don't just want that. I need that for my days to be better. So I have also found journaling is so helpful for me, and writing things out. And my sister-in-law is going through a tough patch right now. And so we've asked her a couple times, do you journal? No. Do you journal? No, I probably should. So for her birthday, I picked her out a really nice journal. I got her some nice pens. And I'm, hoping that it will help her, and that now that she's got the supplies that she'll do it. And I just really encourage that to anybody that hasn't tried that. It can be really helpful. So I guess I did have something that just came to me. So I will stop rambling. Do you have anything else?
No, I think it's time for soccer.
Let's go get ready to play some soccer.
Okay, well, we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.